Hey guys, welcome back to Fast Football Talk. Today, I'm coming at you guys with a little free agency quickie. Our team and topic today is going to be the New York Jets. I really like what they did this free agency period. So without any further ado, let's hop right into some of their signings. So the Jets free agency really all started with the signing of wide receiver Corey Davis. So Davis ended up signing a 3-year deal worth $37 million, about $27 guaranteed. So when you average this out, it comes out to about $12 million average per year. And I really like this move. Obviously, wide receiver was one of the Jets' biggest needs on that roster. And then with Robinson and Godwin, those guys ended up getting tagged. Davis was really pretty much top guy on the board outside of Kenny Golladay, probably. And that's what I always think the free agency is for. It's really all about filling those holes on your roster. So that way in the draft comes around, you can go best player available. And a little bit on Corey Davis and his play style. He's no jack of one trades. He is a jack of all trades. He doesn't really do any one thing well. But really it's just kind of a balance of his route running ability, his hands, and then his separation. They're all just pretty solid across the board. What I really like about this contract is the value to which they signed him. He didn't end up getting wide receiver 1 money. You're paying him like a wide receiver 2, and that's what Corey Davis is. I think it's highly unlikely that he'll ever turn into an alpha number 1, but heck, he's a really competent high-end number 2. And if the Jets can get that alpha on this roster at some point in the next 3 to 4 years, they're set up really, really well here. And I also liked it because now they're taking the opposite approach what they did with Sam Darnold. I mean, with Sam, it's like they completely neglected this position for 3 years. They rolled out their Quincy Enunwa and Jamison Crowder and Denzel Mims, who I like, but at some point you have to invest real capital into the position, not just a late second round pick. So I really like the decision that they're going with here. A new quarterback is imminent. Give him some weapons. Great deal. Didn't overpay. All around, that's what free agency is for. A really solid deal in making there. And then the next player that the Jets went out and got was Carl Lawson, edge player formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals. So they went out and got Carl Lawson to about a 3-year, $45 million deal. So that averages out to $15 a year, with 30 of that being guaranteed. So like I was saying with wide receiver, edge was the second biggest need on this roster. When was the last time the Jets have had a dominant pass rusher? You can't name a guy in the last 10 years for this team. They've needed this for a long time. And Carl Lawson, he was one of the best 10 edge rushers in the NFL last year. He was fantastic. Lawson's risk is kind of his up and down production swings throughout his career. He's really had some good years and some pretty crappy years that have kind of been caused by injuries and just not been able to get going. Really the Jets kind of need him to kind of get to a pretty solid level in terms of consistency. But man, does he have one of the highest upsides out of any edge rusher, in the NFL probably. And he was the best edge rusher to actually hit the market this year. And that $15 million a year, that's not necessarily chump change. That's a hefty amount. It's not nearly as much as the high-end edge rushers in the league who earn anywhere from $20 to $22 million on average a year. And then when you look at other edge players in this draft class, you kind of see that Lawson was the best pick of the bunch. Guys like Bud Dupree, Trey Hendrickson, Jadeveon Clowney, just kind of some uninspiring names, not that great of upside. So to go out and get Lawson, the best edge in this class, probably the highest upside defender in this free agency class, and then you don't overpay him, you're only giving him $15 million a year on average. Again, great value. I think that this is probably my favorite signing of the offseason. So I really, really like this deal. And if he figures out the consistency, that's a big time payoff. If Lawson can just keep figuring it out and keep staying at top 15, top 10 edge rusher production, you're in business if you're the New York Jets, and this contract is looking really, really nice. After their two big kind of splash moves, then the Jets went out and they made a couple, smaller under the radar kind of 1-year signings. And that's going to start with Keelan Cole, wide receiver formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Cole ends up getting a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. You're overpaying him, but I like this deal. Clearly, again, like I said with Davis, go the opposite way that you took with Sam Darnold. Give, most likely, Zach Wilson as many weapons and as much help around him to succeed early and often. It really is key for a young quarterback, and I'm really happy to see the new regime actually understanding that and going and committing to that. But more on Keelan Cole as a player. He had a pretty good year last year with Jacksonville, his best of his career. So if he keeps this up, you work him in as a rotational third receiver here, and you're getting pretty good return on a $5.5 million contract. And even if not, then he's still a pretty good fourth and fifth player to have who can kind of work in the rotation. So I just like adding some receiver depth there and some guys who can make some plays. And then after that, they go and sign free safety LaMarcus Joyner. So formerly of the Las Vegas Raiders most recently, and then also the Los Angeles Rams. So Joyner comes over on a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. And I think kind of people have forgotten that just 2 years ago in free agency, he was one of the most coveted defensive players in free agency. And he got a monster deal with the Raiders 2 years ago. They swapped his position, so he was playing at free safety for the Rams. He had a couple really good years, one career year in 2017. And then they end up swapping him to nickel, so a completely new position for him. And he has played terribly these last 2 years. And they ended up cutting him this offseason. He lands here with the Jets. Now, why I really like this signing is that Joyner, at least at the moment, projects to go back to safety. And that really kind of gets me excited. He's 29, 30 years old. But the last time we saw him playing safety, he was one of the best in the league at it. He was a top 10 safety at minimum. So if you can give him a veteran a $4.5 million deal, kind of kick the tires, see if he can come back in here and play at that really high level again, that is going to be really, really great value. I think there's a decent possibility that this works out. So as far as under the radar signings go, this has to be my favorite in the entire league. And when fall comes around, LaMarcus Joyner, that's definitely going to be a name that I am going to watch. Jets just made a couple of other signings. The biggest one here, Jared Davis, linebacker formerly of the Detroit Lions, for 1 year, $7 million deal. Not so high on this one as a lot of the others. $7 million for Jared Davis. Not that high on it, but he is a former first-round pick, very versatile player. And I believe in Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator. Obviously, he's great. So, hey, maybe he can figure out a role for Jared Davis. No one around the NFL has seemed to be able to do it yet, but maybe Saleh can, and maybe it'll work out. Then they add Sheldon Rankins, interior run stuffing defensive tackle. Add some depth there. He gets about a a 2-year deal. And then you get Tyler Kroft. You're adding a pretty decent tight end there. He can kind of work in, he can do a little bit of everything, a little bit of blocking pretty well, kind of a little underneath zone, possession kind of guy. But this is one of the worst tight end rooms in the league, so definitely in need of a depth and some upgrade there, and that does it for you. And then again, on more 1-year deals, you get Tevin Coleman, Vinny Curry, some veterans to add in there, like Tevin Coleman, especially to a running back room that kind of needs some talent. But overall, I'm really impressed with this start for this new Jets regime. I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the draft. Personally, I think that they're going to kill it from seeing what I've been seeing so far from this team. So yeah, I'm really excited about New York's future. And it's been a long while since I think that, we've been able to say that. So that's pretty cool. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching the video, checking out my content. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'd love talking with you guys about your opinions down below. And as always, this is Fast, signing off with a Mile High Salute.